Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to PiXight, our webinar series on imaging and AI innovation in rheumatology. My name is François Bonnet. I am a scientific program manager at the Medical University of Vienna, and I will be moderating today's webinar, How to Involve Patients in Research Consortia. Before we begin, a quick reminder for our audience. If you'd like to ask a question, please post it in the YouTube chat. We will address as many as possible at the end of the session. Today, I'm delighted to welcome our three guest speakers, each bringing a unique perspective on patient involvement in research. First, here with us today is Kristina Chingoff from the research team of EULAR, the European Alliance of Associations for Rheumatology. Kristina is a scientific project coordinator at EULAR, closely involved in patient engagement activities across European research initiatives. She will share with us why involving patients meaningfully in research isn't just a recommendation, but a necessity for better science. Next, I'd like to welcome Boriana Boteva, who is a patient research partner, or shortly PRP. You might hear me use this abbreviation sometimes in this webinar. So she is a PRP in the AutoPiX project, and she will tell us how this collaboration between patients and researchers look like in practice. Finally, we have with us Loreto Carmona, professor in rheumatology, scientific director at INMUSC in Spain, and a long-standing advocate for structured patient engagement. Thank you all for joining us today. And now, to set the stage, Loreto and Kristina will immediately start with a short presentation, reminding us first what the project AutoPiX is about, in case you haven't followed our first webinar. And second, and most importantly, outlining the EULAR recommendations for involving patient research partners and how these principles are being implemented within the AutoPiX project. Loreto and Kristina, over to you.
Thank you, Francois. So what's AutoPiX, in case you didn't know? This is a very large consortia, a project that it's been funded by Innovative Health Initiative, EU funded, and it's a private public collaboration that targets three diseases: inflammatory diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, and axial spondyloarthritis, with the aim to develop advanced imaging tools and artificial intelligence AI models, which set the scene for a difficult project to understand from the patient perspective. And this is all done to better diagnose, monitor, and treat these three diseases I just mentioned. It follows a complicated methodology, AI machine learning models to convert unstructured images to quantitative biomarkers. And with this project, we expect to improve patient outcomes, improve the diagnosis and the monitoring of these conditions. Also, to have a more effective treatment, because we will be able to select those who will respond better to treatment. And also, if possible, we will increase patient access to imaging, because imaging is not everywhere, and not all the rheumatologists can access all the types of imaging. So the idea is, with all this money, all these partners, and all this difficult technology, improve and advance into imaging biomarkers to patient benefit.
And so I will present the EULAR recommendations for involving patients in research. But before I start with those, I would like to shortly emphasize the 5 overarching principles that are developed by EULAR. And of course, the first one states that patient research partners should be considered as equal partners in any research project. And these are people who actually contribute with their own lived experience and with their expertise of a trained patient research partner that is done through the EULAR PRP course. Of course, caregivers can as well provide their input, that this can only be complementary to the patient's lived experience. And of course, patient participation should be considered in all types of research. And lastly, but perhaps most importantly, open, transparent communication, trust, mutual respect, and of course, willingness to learn are the key ingredients for successful patient involvement in research. And now I will present you the 10 EULAR recommendations for involving patients in rheumatology research. As I already mentioned, patients should be involved in all types of research. And when we say that, we mean clinical research, but of course, basic and translational scientific projects as well. Researchers should involve patients really from the start of the process. And by this, we mean that the project proposal phase or the application phase should be considered as well. And patients should contribute throughout the full project lifecycle. EULAR recommends involving a minimum of 2 PRPs in each project. And of course, their recruitment needs to be based on clear, predetermined roles and expectations that also aim for inclusivity and diversity. In the very difficult research projects that we face currently, of course, we need to provide a very supportive environment that facilitates the involvement of patient research partners. And this leads to the sixth recommendation from EULAR, which says that a designated coordinator should support the collaboration of patient research partners. And in practice, what we see is that when you have multiple PRPs involved in complex scientific projects, this person is actually essential to drive forward the meaningful patient involvement. Of course, training should be provided to both researchers or other consortium partners or people involved in the research projects, in addition to the patient research partners. Something that is very essential, and we put high emphasis on it, is the ninth recommendation, which says that monitoring and regular evaluations should always be involved in research projects, just to evaluate the collaboration and communication between the different stakeholder groups. And last but certainly not least, the contributions from PRPs must be properly recognized.
So one thing is what EULAR may recommend, and the other thing is what's the real experience. And in this project that I prepare from the University of Aberdeen, in which a lot of the PRPs were included, actually, look at what was happening. And what we saw on one hand, which is the good part, what I put in blue, is the PRPs are a high percentage of them are trained, more than 50% felt equal in their projects, and they were involved early. And the researchers thought about the PRPs that they improved the projects, that they had some impact, and they will prefer to have them involved early. But there were some problems as well. So there was some nuisance, both from the perspective of the PRPs and the researchers. So the PRPs were worried about whether they were making any difference at all, whether feedback was honest. They were unsure of their impact, and a very low percentage of they were paid. That's something that they mentioned. And the researchers, they thought that managing the tensions and the power imbalances is not always easy. There is a delicate relationship between patients who are mainly volunteers and are not really trained in the difficulties of the project. They really don't have an idea of how they were involved. And usually the analysis it shows that it's a low involvement, a low percentage paid PRPs, and a low percentage are really trained. So this is what the iPrepare showed, and we will now see how we did it here.
iPrepare study was actually one of those projects that emphasized on the need of the evaluation of the patient input, actually to evaluate not only the involvement process, but also the impact of patient research partners. As in AutoPiX, we followed the EULAR recommendations, and we started earlier where we involved 2 patient research partners. One of them is here with us today. This is Borjana, and together with her, Peter Böhm, who also did the first webinar, they supported us in the co-designing of the patient engagement process in AutoPiX. In the project proposal, we highlighted the EULAR's role as a facilitator in providing the the supportive environment for PRPs to flourish within the scientific project. And together with the AutoPiX engagement and coordination team, we sat down together and really thought about what are the specific needs of AutoPiX and how should we best tailor our approach to the needs of AutoPiX. And we developed very specific guidelines on when and how PRPs should contribute across the project stages, how PRPs will support different work packages, and of course, which support structures do we need to have in place for meaningful participation. And of course, we highlighted the continuous monitoring and evaluation in the project, which is also assigned to specific milestones in the project proposal. And with this, we also followed our standardized matchmaking methodology, which I thought will be beneficial for to be shown both to researchers, but also to anyone from the overall public who wants to conduct meaningful patient involvement. So on the next slide, you will see our matchmaking methodology and how we actually did it for AutoPiX. So as soon as we heard that the project received the necessary funding, we announced an open call via our EULAR PARE PRP network and also through our EULAR PARE member organizations. To support this open call, we provided what we call key takeaways from the project proposal, where we explain the project's objectives and scientific methods in very understandable plain English. And we also mention any specific consortium requests that more oftenly they include specific lived experience of a disease or country representation. Simultaneously, we also collected requests from work package leaders or other stakeholder partners, where we tried to understand what are their expectations of patients' involvement by each work package and what would be the expected time frequency, expected role responsibility, or even meeting frequency. We gathered all of this relevant information, we carefully reviewed it, and then the third step is the actual matchmaking process. So once we had the PRPs recruited that would potentially do the patient advisory panel, we provided them with all those comprehensive materials so they can truly make an informed decision on whether they want to support one or multiple work packages. So we shared this detailed work package description to PRPs. We gave them some time and we moved to the next step, which is the actual establishment of the patient advisory panel, which formally is done in a dedicated meeting where, together with the whole patient advisory panel that is recruited for the project and us from EULAR, we have a really open and friendly discussion about what work packages do the different patient partners want to contribute. We identify areas that perhaps lack sufficient patient involvement. We discuss this openly to create new ideas on how we can support, for instance, very technical work packages. Usually we use a strategy where the whole patient advisory panel supports those very technical work packages in dedicated meetings where questions are asked in very understandable English. Then it is not on the slides here, but we also have introductory meeting that is done inviting the principal investigator of the project, and they present once again the project in lay language to the whole patient advisory panel, which is then followed up by a dedicated meet and greet sessions where the patient research partners meet their work package leaders, and they also have again the opportunity to further discuss their involvement process if any questions are there. And this is also the occasion where we conduct our first mini training on meaningful patient involvement in research by sharing the tips and tricks we receive from the EULAR cards. And of course, this process doesn't really end, but well, it ends with a continuous improvement cycle where we continuously monitor and evaluate the patient involvement by sharing 2 questionnaires, both to researchers and to patient research partners, to really get to know how the collaboration and communication has been going in the past year or months between the 2 stakeholder groups. And of course, we then have dedicated sessions where we discuss these results, and we create strategies to further improve the patient involvement incentive in the project.
Thank you, Christina and Loreto, for that excellent overview. And thank you for being so thorough with the process of EULAR, Christina. This was absolutely fantastic. I'd like now to turn to Boriana Boteva. As Christina nicely introduced her, and as I introduced her also earlier, Boriana is one of our patient research partner in the AutoPiX project, and she will share with us her first-hand experience as a patient research partner. Boriana, thank you for being with us today and agreeing to this little impromptu interview. Perhaps to best start our conversation, I would like to ask you what motivated you to participate in the AutoPiX project in the first place?
Thank you very much to all of you for inviting me to participate today in this webinar. It was really challenging for me because this is my first big research project that I participate in. So what motivated me to participate was the opportunity to make research more connected to real patient experience, and also because imaging is a powerful tool in rheumatology, but sometimes it's too scientific and it's too technical, too scientific. And what motivated me was that in that way I can bring the patient perspective and to help develop different tools that are not only scientifically advanced but also meaningful to and accessible to patients like myself, as I am a patient with axial SpA, and I know from my experience how important is imaging for a patient with an axial SpA. So that was my motivation. And I was inspired by the idea that my contribution, together with other PRPs, can help ensure that the data used, the questions asked, and the outcomes measured truly reflect patient needs.
Thank you so much, Boriana, for sharing with us your motivations. And I can reflect myself in a lot of what you just said, actually, myself as a project manager. We're so glad to have you on board, first of all. I'd like to continue by asking you, at the beginning of the project, what helped you really identify which work packages in the project you would wanted to contribute, or in which you were feeling like you would fit the most?
Of course, this was not an easy decision, but I had the help from the others, from EULAR, Christina, from Loreto, and the working package that I like most is working package 8 because it somehow is connected with all other working packages, and it's connected with communication. So that's why I decided to take part in work package 8, for example. So for me, it is interesting how we present the results, how we can overarch and connect with other working packages.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you, Boriana. And do you feel that working in a panel with other patient research partners is actually helpful? Does it make a difference for you?
Yes, I'm happy that I have my colleagues in this project, like Peter, like others. We started with Peter, as Christina mentioned in the beginning, and of course we help each other because some of us have more experience, like Peter. Others, like me, doesn't have a lot of experience, so we can help each other. So working with other PRPs, it's really, really helpful.
And have you ever encountered a difficulty, or is there something you'd like to share in one of the challenges that you've encountered so far in AutoPiX?
Okay, of course, as I mentioned, this is my first big research project, so there are a lot of challenges for me. Working with a big team with of researchers, it's really challenging because I sometimes wonder.
Oh, Boriana, you've just muted yourself. If you could unmute yourself.
Yes,
We can hear you
sometimes
again.
I wonder how the patient voice is heard, how our contribution is helpful.
Thank you very much. And finally, maybe if you can still, I'm not sure you're still here with us, Boriana. Yeah, okay. Finally, I just
Yes,
would
I'm
like to
here.
ask you.
I'm here. Sorry,
No,
some
it's okay.
technical problem.
You can tell that this is, we're doing our best here. One final question for you, Boriana. How can someone become a patient research partner like you?
Oh, this is a really good question. Of course, every patient with an RMD and, of course, caregiver can become a patient research partner. As Christina mentioned, there are EULAR recommendations for patient research partners, but of course, every patient can have the EULAR course for patient research partners through their national organizations or by themselves. So the EULAR course is really helpful, and it is designed for anyone living with RMD and also, as I said, a caregiver. And it gives the idea of the research process, what is needed from a patient's perspective to be brought in every research project that patients participate. So the EULAR course for PRP is something as a must, I can say.
Okay, thank you so much once again, Boriana, for giving us your perspective as a patient research partner. And we will now open our final slide and discussion of today, bringing back Christina and Loreto, and talk about how we could improve patient engagement. So let me switch to exactly the final slide. So I'm sorry, first of all, I'm sorry, Loreto, I think I squished one of your slides, but I can see also on the clock that we're a little bit late. So I thought maybe we could use that time better to discuss our final slide.
I think you did perfectly. So how could we do better? We need to squeeze time sometimes.
Right.
Actually, I think we suffer one of the challenges of involving patients is that they have a life and they have all the things to do. So it's not easy to have them in place. So I think one way to do better is that we should all get some sort of training, which we haven't, most of us. So I think researchers also need some sort of training, and we really need to be pretty much into the shoes of the patients, because it's like we are in the middle of the day, and Boriana probably has a lot of things to do in her daily life, and we are just having a webinar.
Of course, Loreto. From your side, Christina, how would you see any improvement being made to improve patient engagement?
I personally believe that it should always start with the very basic human thing, that is just to listen to the needs of the others. So acting as a PRP facilitator and starting this position at EULAR, how I myself try to do better is to actually talk to the patients, try to understand what are their needs to be involved in projects. Some of them mentioned that the package of resources needed to be developed so they can have constant access to materials that facilitate their involvement. From the researchers, sometimes when we speak to them, they say that they have no clue about where to involve the patients or how to involve them or what tasks could be beneficial to gain from the patient input. So it starts with talking to people, and I think it goes all the way up to achieving equity in patient involvement.
But I think you mentioned something that is critical, is the human touch. So I think it's a good thing that we have patients on board, because they forced us to have this human touch and to lower the level of jargon that we use. So I think that's always recommendable. I mean, I would recommend all projects to have PRPs. But what could we improve, Boriana? I think you are the most important one.
I think that you mentioned, Loreto, that sometimes we patients, because this is a voluntary work, sometimes we don't have the time. Sometimes, like at the moment, we are at work, so we have to have some time for working on our tasks. What should I say about? I think that you are doing a great job. For me, being for the first time in such a big project, maybe I need more time to read documents to understand the structure of the project. As we talk about communication, this is the easiest part, but the other part is more difficult. So I think that you're doing a great job, but we need more time sometimes to contribute as we need to contribute and as we feel satisfied, because when we are doing this, it is from all our heart, and we feel that we make a difference. So this is important for us to have time to contribute in the most perfect way.
Maybe
So
to bounce
maybe
back to
time is the big challenge here.
Yeah, maybe to bounce back to what you just said, Boriana, I believe that project management also has a role to play in how to improve patient engagement, because you need to properly inform a PRP, for example, about what the meeting will be, when it will be, make sure that the invitations to the meeting have been properly sent, etc. So it requires a lot of this organization that I think each work package in a consortia should be very much aware of, that having a patient means also having to organize it very well, so that they wouldn't have to struggle, for example, to find a link to the meeting and to have afterwards a lay summary of the meeting. I think this kind of this kind of work is also very necessary, and maybe I'll take it as for myself with the project management perspective.
If I can add, I sometimes have the problem in coordinating all the meetings that I have to participate in, and for one time it happened to me to miss a meeting which was important, and then I felt bad because I knew that this meeting is important, but I don't know, something happened with all that I have to do during the day, with my work, with my health, and the time difference, and that's why sometimes it happens that we can miss a meeting. So I hope that you will understand that.
Absolutely.
Of course. Flexibility is important, I believe, in our job. And I think what matters in this case, for example, Boriana, is that you're led aware of what the meeting was about and you receive a proper summary afterwards, for example.
If I may also mention that sometimes we do collaborate with these very dedicated patient research partners that sometimes prioritize their voluntary task or contributing to a consortium so highly that they even overrun their own well-being. So this is sometimes where we have to jump in and say, your well-being is the first and most important thing, and afterwards the contribution to a specific project comes. So for us, the most important thing is that your well-being is on the highest level, and then your contribution. So don't worry about skipping any meetings, Rihanna.
Okay, I believe that this concludes our little panel discussion. Thank you very much, Cristina, Loreto, and Boriana, for contributing. Now to finish this webinar, I would like to turn to the chat and see if there are any questions from our audience. So I cannot see any question right now on my
I only
chat.
see a smiley face. That's all I see in there.
Oh, okay, well, I'm glad. Well, that's a very positive feedback that I will gladly take. You guys did a wonderful job, obviously, today to give a smile to someone on the chat, and that's wonderful. Well, then that brings us to the end of today's PiXight episode. A huge thank you once again to Kristina Chinkov, Boriana Boteva, and Loreto Carmona for your inspiring contributions, and to everyone watching for joining us today. We hope you gained valuable insights into how AutoPiX, patients, and EULAR are working together to make patient involvement a true partnership from proposal to practice. Please stay tuned for our next PiXight episode, I believe next year, which will be dedicated to artificial intelligence and the ethical way to leverage it in research, which is one of the core components of the AutoPiX project. And please follow our AutoPiX social media channels and websites for more updates. And with that, I wish you all a great afternoon, and thank you again for being part of PiXight.